The golden age of CIA agents destabilizing democracies may be over, but there is a new, more lucrative Cold War playing out in companies all over the world. The FBI estimates that corporate espionage costs America as much as $600 billion every year. If you work with sensitive information in a large company, there is a high chance you have interacted with a corporate spy without even knowing it.
This is as big of a case as we've had in 20 years.
There is a Chinese spy who's trying to obtain secret technology.
A story that shows how millions of American jobs, now and in the future, are on the line.
I think every major American corporation in any of these fields needs to assume that they are a target to be either replaced or gutted.
Corporate spies come in three varieties, each working in progressively darker legal gray areas. These people can earn millions of dollars from their work on top of the money they earn from working their day job. But what the f do these people actually do? And if you have flexible morals, how do you get a job as the James Bond of industrial patents and processes? The most common type of corporate spy is one that never crosses the line into illegality. Market research firms work as technically legitimate consultants all over the world, selling information to market competitors and investors, and like any other consultants, they get paid on billable hours. Analysts at these companies will secure a contract and then prepare a report that is delivered to their client as a PowerPoint presentation or PDF alongside any raw data they were able to collect. The most effective tool for collecting sensitive information is by just asking for it. If you become this kind of corporate spy, one tactic you can use is to act as a fake customer to talk to a salesman about a target company's products, what their specs are, what their pricing is, learn the sales techniques they use, the conditions of their contracts, and anything they lie about, which could be used against the company later in the process or in courts. If the companies operate in a business-to-business market, you will need to set up a convincing fake business to act as potential customers for the target company's services. Depending on the budget your client gives you to conduct your research, you may even buy the company's products to test its strengths and weaknesses. One of your biggest clients will be the auto industry. They pay unaffiliated third-party research companies to buy a competitor's new model off the lot and tear it down to learn about the materials, manufacturing methods, and areas where the competitor has cut corners. Another great source of information you can access without breaking any laws are company employees by using networking events and sites like LinkedIn. You can pose as a recruiter and ask them questions about what they do in their current job, why they want to leave the company, and what they think their employer could be doing better. These are all normal questions in a job interview that can expose weaknesses in a competitor's operations. Another legitimate way to get information is to buy shares in a company if they are publicly listed and attend shareholder meetings where you can work your way into private conversations with company executives, major shareholders, and directors. Once you have collected your intel, you put it into a secure data room, hand it over to the company that hired you, give a presentation on your finding, collect your fee, and move on to your next job. The company can use this information to make better trades if they are in an investment fund, or bring a more competitive product to market if they are an industry rival. Insiders working in this field have reported that the hardest part of this job was not the clandestine operations, but finding clients. Investigators had to market their services, but they couldn't do it too well, or their potential targets would learn who they are and what they are up to. Investigative intelligence gathering like this is legal. You can find companies that will do this work by Googling competitive intelligence consultants. A lot of this work just makes businesses more competitive, and it helps with price discovery in securities markets. Hindenburg Research is an investment company that blew the whistle on major alleged corporate frauds like Nikola Motors, Cash App, and the Adani Group. Their investment strategy is to conduct research like this and then short sell companies that they find compromising information on before releasing that information to the public. They are not a hero to people already invested in the companies they target, but they do put an end to these frauds before they can attract more victims, so they are doing a good thing. But maybe you aren't satisfied being a glorified corporate consultant. Well, don't worry. Corporate espionage gets a lot worse, and if you don't care about things like the law, you can do a lot more damage and make yourself very rich. So it's time to learn how money works to find out how corporate espionage is actually done. This week's lesson was sponsored by Incogni. While corporate espionage may be an accepted part of the business world, what's not acceptable is when the target is you. Little do you know, there's a good chance your personal information is being bartered online without your approval. Strikingly, both the number and scope of data breaches worldwide are rising faster than ever. According to the 2022 Annual Data Breach Report by the Identity Theft Resource Center, the number of victims has gone up nearly 41.5% from 2021. On the bright side, you do have the legal right to request the deletion of your personal data from data brokers. The catch? Doing it yourself could be a years-long endeavor. When data brokers hold on to your personal details, they inadvertently put you at risk. A single security breach could compromise your privacy. That's where Incogni comes in. Acting as your personal liaison, Incogni negotiates with data brokers to have your information removed, handling any pushback they might offer. The procedure is refreshingly uncomplicated. Just sign up, specify whose data should be deleted, give Incogni the green light to represent you, and they'll reach out to data brokers to get your information removed. It really is that easy. Delegate the responsibility of protecting your privacy to Incogni, and breathe easier knowing your personal data isn't up for grabs on the internet. Sign up for Incogni at incogni.com/money, and the first 100 people to use code MONEY with this link will get 60% off Incogni. If you want to become the second type of corporate spy, you are going to need to take a much more hands-on approach to collecting corporate intelligence by getting a job in the company your other company wants to target. On the inside, you will have much greater access to trade secrets, but now selling them will open you up to civil suits for breach of employment contracts or even criminal prosecution under the Espionage Act. The Department of Justice can pursue cases of corporate espionage just the same as traditional national espionage, so this is a high-risk, high-reward game. The company that employs corporate spies is also at risk of getting sued or fined, so in many cases, they try to hide their involvement behind private contractors hiring private contractors. According to the FBI, the most common perpetrators of industrial espionage are foreign companies that don't operate in America because bringing legal action against them is difficult even if they can be connected to the crime. The same report stated that the most common targets of this type of spying are companies in high-tech fields like software development, biotech, aerospace, telecom, transportation, energy, material science, and coatings. One of the most high-profile cases of corporate espionage involved a senior Coca-Cola executive that used their position to learn industrial secrets about the company's chemical suppliers. Her employer, allegedly a company with deep connections to the Chinese government, paid millions of dollars in grants to a business she was a partner of back in China. The industrial secret that was worth taking such a big risk to get was a BPA chemical coating that is coated on the inside of aluminum cans to prevent corrosion. BPA is harmful when ingested, but only a few companies had figured out how to make a resistant coating without the presence of this chemical. While working as a principal engineer for global research at Coca-Cola from 2012 to August of 2017, Yu Xiaorong was one of only a few employees who had access to trade secrets covering BPA-free coatings belonging to AkzoNobel, BASF, Dow Chemical, PPG, Toyo Chem, Sherwin-Williams, and Eastman Chemical. At Yu's trial, chemical and coating companies' representatives testified that developing these BPA-free alternatives was a very expensive and time-consuming process, estimating that the information Yu stole had cost nearly $120 million to develop. Because of the evidence of foreign engagement and the degree of financial damage inflicted to the victims of this case, the FBI and the Justice Department pursued this case with all of their resources, but the department warned that the theft of trade secrets can be hard to detect and harder to prosecute. When the rewards are this great, the risk is worth taking, and the responsibility rests mainly with the companies themselves to keep their secrets secure, and this can be a great opportunity for your career even if you don't want to become a criminal. Getting secret or top secret clearance is required in certain roles in the military or defense contracting. These clearances require extensive background checks to prevent real spies from learning national secrets, and that makes them very valuable in the private sector. Companies don't have the same resources to run background checks, but if you have a top secret clearance, then you are a safer candidate to handle industrial secrets. According to the Clearance Jobs Compensation Survey, full-time employees with a secret clearance earn $18,867 more on average than people without it, making it more valuable than some college degrees. If you still want the even more lucrative rewards on the dark side of becoming a corporate spy, then you should know that it's getting harder. Unless you have the ability to flee back to a country that won't extradite like a lot of corporate spies do, it's better to stay on the right side of the law. Companies are waking up to the risk of corporate espionage, and precautions like this mean getting a man on the inside is becoming more difficult. An easier strategy more companies are using to get their hands on valuable corporate secrets is to approach existing employees of target companies and gauge their willingness to divulge sensitive information through fake job interviews or professional networking. It sounds like something out of a cheesy spy book, but it happens all the time. And that's the third type of corporate espionage, which is even more direct than getting a man on the inside. In the last 5 years, law enforcement agencies around the world have reported a sharp rise in brazen intelligence gathering attempts traced back to Chinese companies. Investigative journalists at Bloomberg released an article in June reporting on alleged espionage carried out by the technology company Huawei. The Chinese company was bidding on a contract in Denmark to build a 5G network for the Danish telecommunications company TDC. Its rival for the contract was the Swedish firm Ericsson. corporate contracts normally go to the lowest qualified bidder, so the companies want to present an offer that is lower than their competition, but not too low that it reduces their profits. According to the Bloomberg report, Ericsson presented an offer to build the network for the equivalent of $200 million, which was lower than the proposal from Huawei, meaning that the Chinese firm was going to lose this lucrative deal. At the last minute, Huawei presented an adjustment to their bid that slightly undercut Ericsson's, prompting suspicions at TDC that they had inside knowledge. The Danish firm hired a counterintelligence service that found that their boardroom had been bugged and one of their directors was being paid off to pass along information regarding the bid. During their investigation, they were followed by drones and tailed by unidentified people around the city. Eventually, the head of Huawei in Denmark had to flee to China to avoid arrest. One of the most lucrative jobs in this field that has the small perk of not making you a criminal is the counterintelligence services that more companies are starting to invest in by building internal teams or hiring outside consultants like the ones featured in this report. I will leave a link to the full story below, it's worth the read. But a $200 million contract is not even that big. So this story is one of the few that you will actually hear about among hundreds that will go undiscovered and unpunished every year. Today, the largest threat is Chinese companies, but one of the largest private companies in America got its start by selling industrial secrets to the Nazis and the Soviet Union. Go and watch my new video over on how history works to find out how they got away with it, and how they used the billions that they made to shape American politics for the better part of the century. If you want to watch these videos a day early and get detailed articles that will never be made into videos for YouTube, then subscribe to my email newsletter Compounded Daily to keep on learning how money works.